to talk about this particular thing that honestly we are very excited to be talking about.
Yes, we are.
Because MEOR is guilty of it.
Oh, man. Okay. Continue first. Yeah. Okay.
But yes, what are we going to be talking about is basically this law, anti-stalking law. Finally, it has been tabled and finally it has passed. And what is this law all about? Well, let me just give you some stats right here. Now, Malaysia joins a few countries in Asia, right, that have legislation criminalizing stalking on their books.
Okay.
Following suit, we have India, identified stalking as a crime in 2013. And Singapore, the next year, 2014. And on 31st May 2023, Malaysia followed suit.
Okay, but the question that we have today is that what does this actually mean to the people out there, specifically Malaysians? How does this help an individual in regards of, should they come across being stalked or being harassed, so on and so forth? Hence why we have a professional who's going to be sharing with us her thoughts on this matter. We have KOKILA VAANI VADIELOO together with us. She's a lawyer, by the way. KOKILA, thank you so much for coming on to the show.
Thank you, MEOR. Thank you, Brendan.
As mentioned off air as well, you were quite excited about this topic as well because it paints a much clearer picture on the subject that is stalking and how people should actually perceive it and how it's being practiced. So first of all, as what Brendan has actually explained briefly, the anti-stalking law. How did we come upon this finally, after so many years of discussing this, tabled it in the parliament and so on? KOKILA.
So I think all this while, anti-stalking laws was something that you can only find in Domestic Violence Act in Malaysia. And we all know the Domestic Violence Act was very restricted. So only family members, ex-spouse and spouse falls under that category. So if you are stalked or harassed by your boyfriend, your current boyfriend or your girlfriend, or your ex-boyfriend, girlfriend, or even strangers in general, there was actually no laws pertaining to help you out. And many times, I think I was asked this question, like, and I'm being, assaulted by my boyfriend. We're living in together. Now, will that be under domestic violence? The answer is unfortunately no.
Really?
Yeah. So this anti-stalking laws is very commendable because it came in after 2 years being heated debates in the parliament. So, and like Brendan just now mentioned, it's good to know that we are finally going towards this international standards, joining other countries, Asian countries per se, because many times stalking has a very thin, fine line. MEOR, I don't know why Brendan mentioned you in particular, but I'm not here to judge. So I'm just going to talk about the laws. Okay, I will keep it fresh in the morning on a Sunday. But I think it's the fact that many people have a thin line where they think it could be love. It could be just a possessive nature. Maybe it's not. But today, stalking is an offense. All right? That's what you need to know. Stalking is a criminal offense. And now what we need to know what constitutes stalking, right? Of course, when one day you do something like meet this person at the residence or follow them back to their workplace, that one-time offence does not come under the anti-stalking laws. It has to be at least twice. Yes, correct. Repeated is the key word that we need to look out for. I think everyone who's listening to this must be aware what actually constitutes stalking. So it must be a repeated offence, making the victim uncomfortable or putting them in fear. Or you're just feeling very, stressful about it. It causes you stress and anxiety. Of course, the UK position, it's not called anti-stalking laws, it's called protection from harassment. And they have taken a little step further where they actually include spying and unwanted incidents or unwanted statements as stalking as well. And unwanted actions. So hoping that, we will eventually get there because spying is something that I think happens very rampantly in Malaysia, in the LRT, in public transport. I think many of us would have probably heard cases where, where they noticed they were being spied, but when they turn around, there's actually nobody. So,
I mean, it's just another fancy word. Spying and stalking is somewhat similar, I would say.
Yeah. That is why I feel that maybe, UK has actually detailed it in their protection from harassment. Malaysia just put in as stalking and, like I mentioned, this is a repeated offense, where making that person, the victim, feels, and it's a subjective test, because many times we may think that this is stalking from person A, but person B is not stalking. So now who tests and who decides? And that, I think, would be the victim. So the victim has a subjective test. If I feel uncomfortable, then it's stalking.
Right. Section 507A of the Penal Code. So that's exactly what we're talking about. And of course, that's where Erin and Zoe stays. Section 507A. But if you go to their house, you'll be charged under this law. And of course, you just mentioned, right, if you do it more than once, and then you have to face the music, right? How do we define this once? For an example, let's say if I'm stalking MEOR right now. He's at his place. I drive by his house, that's once. On that same day, the next very minute, I pass by again. Is that considered as twice?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So it just has to be more than once, okay? And the best part is MEOR, I mean, he's actually right, because this is gender neutral. So it applies to men equally as applies to women, because there are some laws that only applies to women and applies to men. But this law is actually gender neutral. So you could actually make a report that you're being stalked. So can I, as a woman, it's a gender-neutral thing. So Brendan could well be, stalking you.
I'm making the report right now. Actually, being spied on, being stalked on. Okay, but one thing I do want to catch on what you have just mentioned, KOKILA. Again, when it comes to having that feeling of being stalked, like you say, it is quite subjective from an individual to an individual. Again, let's say, for instance, if I come and stalk you per se, you enjoy it. You enjoy the attention because you like me because of my appearance, because I'm shiny and whatnot. But when Brendan does it, then you feel threatened. I don't want, like, this man is like invading my privacy. Where do people draw the line? The fact that it is subjective.
That's exactly what I mean. And it has to be subjective, because I may actually have some sort of romantic feelings towards you, or might be comfortable.
Okay, I love my wife. I have to tell this now. I love my wife putting it out there. Okay, go on.
There's no intention here. I'll also make it a bit public. But at the same time, Brendan's advances may make me uncomfortable. So that is why it's very important to maintain the subjectivity. Because if it's a general test, then I think it's going to be very difficult for anyone to make a report. So at the end of the day, I think it has to be subjective, and there's a reason why it's subjective, because I feel uncomfortable with a certain person's advances, but I do not feel that another person's act constitutes stalking to me.
Okay, but question is, right, when it comes to evidence, how is it going to go about? I don't have evidence that MEOR is driving past my house more than once.
I thought you were driving past my house.
The other way around. Right? Evidence is actually very important. So when these perpetrators, when they are on the move, chances are you might not have evidence that's actually happening to you. So what happens then?
So I think that's also maybe because this is the part where the stalking laws requirements actually may help, because it has to be more than once. So you eventually know that this is going to happen again. So of course, so many did not think about it. It's a good question, Brendan, because how do you get it? I think in today's digital era, it is pretty simple, because there's CCTV everywhere. There is also, what do you call this, your own camera, your own phone that you have, that is just a click away when this person just passed by. You just need to show that this person is, it could be a 2-second video, it could be like just a few minutes as well, whatever that's happening. Or you could even like get someone to, like if you're with your friend, they can record it if you're at that point not in a proper state of mind, because it can be quite daunting.
No, because when it comes to stalking as well, again, for talking about evidence and whether you have it or not, it is much easier should you are. I mean, again, not that I'm wishing this upon anybody. If you're being stalked online, if there's proper evidence, like conversations through your, chatting applications like WhatsApp, like messages and whatnot, you kind of like have it there. You can have a screenshot about it. But more often than not, this kind of cases, I'm feeling that it's more of a he said, she said, that kind of a thing. It depends on whoever has a much stronger position in court should it comes to it. So how can the victim really protect themselves in a way that they can be freed from this dilemma that they are actually going through?
Yeah, I personally think, like what you said, in fact, MEOR, well done. I don't know whether you know that the first reported case under this new law, anti-stalking laws, was an online thing.
Yeah.
It was actually by a female photographer. She was sexually, she was sexually harassed as well and stalked numerous times, I think, and by numerous avenues. I think it was about almost through 88 accounts over 8 years.
Wow.
It was not a one-time incident. So I think she fulfilled all the requirements under the stalking laws, anti-stalking laws. So what has happened was, she then made a report again. She had made a report back then in 2008. First time, and there was no action taken because there's no relevant laws, because at that point it felt like a physical injury would have to be present in order for you to go for this kind of cases, and there was no physical injury. So this person kept just following her on Instagram, sending her private messages, and it just got a bit ugly because it went on to him sending him his privates in videos. So these are the evidence that we are looking at when you asked. You know, she just had screenshots of it, and that was enough because there was 88 accounts by the same person. And also, he also followed her to the UK because she was there, and then she went to the house. So place of residence and a place of work. These are the two requirements that constitute stalking. So yeah, I think the first reported case was something that, and her evidence that she showed to the police was actually all this.
It's funny how we know a lot, huh?
Yeah, again, it is quite
really
a scary
proud
statement.
Of you guys.
No, I guess
you're very well aware.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. Sometimes it's when you know too much, it's also a scary thought as well. You know, granted, we're living in a day and age where everything is all interconnected. It's somewhat borderless in some ways, more than one, and it can be a scary world, Brandon. To you,
it can be very, very scary. But question is, right? When you mentioned that, okay, look, MEOR brought up something that's very good, which is done online. So you don't have to literally stalk the person physically. You can do it online. But when it comes to something that's a little bit more subjective, if I take a photo of you right now, I'm doing it in front of you, and you know that I'm doing it. But when I hit on home, I start stalking you, but with that materials that I have of you. Is it considered?
Yes, because but you had to make sure that I was uncomfortable when you took the picture.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, so if I know you, then taking a picture would have been fine, you know. But unfortunately, you took my picture and then you start stalking me, and I know you now have possession. You probably would send me a picture of myself that you took earlier, and start saying that, hey, you know what, I just met you. And Brendan and MEOR, and I think this happens a lot in this media industry, because I have actually had complaints from radio jockeys or, you know, many people being stalked, because I think you guys are exposed to many fans, ardent fans, which sometimes...
He does.
I think both of y'all maybe, but I think some ardent fans could then move to something called stalking.
That's right.
So, which is a dangerous position. And then what do you do? Because you are in the public eye. Now, would that apply to you all? Yes, it equally applies to everyone.
Because some people would take this as a form of flattery. You know, again, I mean, like all the influencers out there, you know, when you have X amount of followers, you feel like, oh, I'm feeling the acceptance, I'm feeling the acknowledgement that a lot of people are actually liking me, they like to do what I do. And again, some point in time as well, I mean, you could also place the blame a bit to the accuser, or should I say the victims, because they are putting themselves out there so much more, and yet they're calling that they are being harassed and they're being stalked a lot. So again, it is very much up to that individual to put that line where it should stand, isn't it? I mean, flattery versus harassment.
Yeah, but that is why, again, the test. I think the test is, I mean, I might be an influencer, but I might like the fact that you have been taking, you spotted me here and you took a picture and you uploaded it. But that might be something that I feel like you are crossing the line of my privacy at this point, where now you are you're making me live in stress and fear, which then becomes stalking. So I think the saving grace here, it is really how the alleged victim feels about a certain act, and whether it's a repeated act. I think if you see me in a mall and if you take a picture and saying that, I saw this influencer, haha, caught you, maybe it wouldn't be. But if you saw me in my personal setting, maybe at a place that I wanted to be alone, and then it may not be, you may be invading into my personal space, that I would feel like you are kind of stalking me, and if it happened more than once.
It's actually very scary.
Yeah.
It is.
If your intention is not to stalk someone, and then you get to know that someone has a photo of you probably drinking coffee.
Yeah.
All by yourself, no less.
all by yourself.
Imagine that. Yes.
And the person says, okay, you know what? I don't know, but I think the person is actually stalking me. The person has rights to actually lodge a report.
That's right.
Right? And talking about lodging reports and all that, where can they go to besides the police? Yeah.
So they can also go to these, they can go to court, but they can go to the nearest police station, or can go to welfare centres as well, which gives you a protection order, which is something that, it's called an interim protection order. So you get this so that that person doesn't stalk you. So there's an order issued by the court. Some orders can be issued by the police. Some can also be issued by the welfare centres. And the best part about this is, as a victim, if you feel a bit uncomfortable to lodge a police report on your own, you can get someone who has seen this witness
to
lodge it for you. It is kind of similar to the latest act of the child abuse, where child abuse one is a bit different, because if you saw abuse and you do not report it, you can be fined. And you can be a third party. Recently, because it feels that this is the way to curb things from happening, and you don't play that, if it doesn't happen to me, it doesn't hurt me.
I'm all for it.
Exactly, I'm totally with that. All right, well, running out of time here talking about the anti-stalking law, but we do want to leave it, last words to KOKILA, last words that you want to share with our audiences again.
I want to say that the offence...
all right, she took the words out of my mouth. Again, she's very pro at that.
No.
I'm being stalked right now. I'm feeling stalked. Right? Okay, no, I'm sorry, KOKILA, please.
No, I think we need to remember that the anti-stalking laws has severe punishments. It's 3 years and a fine, or a fine as well. 3 years. Of course, I think some of us felt that we should follow suit to the UK, where it's 10 years and a bigger fine, because it's not something that you want to take lightly, because it affects someone's mental health, especially in today's trying times after the MCO. So with that, I do hope that we are aware to be able to put aside how we feel towards someone, and to know that if that someone is not reciprocating, it may be just stalking, and you may want to, let this go.
Okay.
All right, good sentiment over there. If you don't get reciprocated, with your actions, that means you're doing something wrong, actually. Thank you so much to our lovely guest, KOKILA VADIELOO, for coming on to our show talking about this particular topic. Appreciate it. Lovely to see you. And if he stalks you, then tell me. Then
definitely,
I'll lodge the reports. All right.